Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews, and it's a pretty late week. There's a couple books we're catching up with. It seems like with Ryan has said, he has to get books from four different distributors now. So some stuff comes in a little later, or some stuff that I've missed, and a couple books that I missed last week just by not picking them up. So it does happen. So, but we always try to catch up and continue to spotlight titles and kind of check in on them and see if they're still continuing to be worth picking up. But we have a few new books this week and some returning ones that we'll get to. So let's get started. First up, we have Grommits #1, written by Rick Remender and Brian Posson, with artwork by Brett Parson. So this is set in 1984 Sacramento, and Rick. They lived in San Francisco, and his parents have moved to Sacramento. He's not happy about it. He's a kid, probably maybe middle school, just maybe a freshman, going to a new school. It sucks. It's 1984, and skateboards are kings, and so he has a rough time on his first day of school. But then he loves to skateboard, and he meets this other kid, Brian, who take his grandfather takes him to the skate park. And it turns into an interesting day. Here's the interesting thing. I do like the book, but it's more of like this first issue is definitely a setup. It's a lot of exposition going on in this first issue, and it's setting the stage and everything, which I think is really good. We kind of get to learn a little bit about Rick and Brian, not too much right now. It's more of, I think a lot of it is really kind of recreating that feeling of 1984, the Breakfast Club, and things like that, that really kind of get you into that period. Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and things like that. So that's really kind of your mindset that you need to get into for this period book. And it's also like trying to fit into as you're growing up as a teenager, and that's not fun at all. And so I liked it. I just didn't quite love it. But then once again, there's so much exposition in this first issue. It's kind of like hard to like kind of see, okay, where's this story going? I mean, we're introduced, we get the concept of the area and everything, but then it's like, okay, where's the story going to go? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just, it's really exposition heavy in this first issue. I will say, Parsons' artwork is really nice. Kind of reminding me a little bit of like Jack Davis. And that kind of, Mad Magazine type cartoony look, which actually really fits the story quite well. And that was really one of the things I really liked about the book. I really like the artwork a lot. The level of detail, while it still has a cartoony look, the level of detail was really impressive. But so I think it's worth checking out. I enjoyed reading it. Like I said, I wasn't blown away, but in a lot of respects, this first issue isn't really meant to blow you away. It's really meant to set everything up. And I think really the one thing that I definitely liked about was both in the story and the artwork is how it really did capture that feeling of 1984. There were no cell phones, there was no internet, kids went out after school, in playground. So it really captured that. And I really did like it. So yeah, I think in the long run, it's worth checking out, but just know that it's exposition heavy on this first issue. Next up, we have Batman, the Brave and the Bold, #13. So there's 5 stories. The first one, Down the Road, is written by Tim Seeley, with artwork by Kelly Jones. Then the second, then you have Time Jerks, written by Mark Russell, with artwork by John Mickle. Then we have Artemis, the Poison Within, written by Delilah S. Dawson, with art by Serge Acuna. Then we have The Invader by Joshua Hale Falkoff, with artwork by Lissandro Esteron. And then the final story, Perp Walk, Plot and art by Jason Shaw Alexander, with the script by Rodney Barnes. So I haven't been reading this on a regular basis. It really kind of goes to really what stories are in here, what creators are in here, and of course, excuse me, you all know that I'm a huge Kelly Jones fan, so once again, sign me up. I'll be buying anything by Kelly Jones. So that's really the down the road story is really the main reason I bought the book. The good thing is that so that story is the first part. Time Jerks is the first part. The Invaders is the first part. Perp Walk is a short story. The only one that's a little tough for newer readers coming in is the Artemis, which is the fourth part of a story. So I really did basically. I kind of skimmed through it, but since I hadn't read the first three parts, it really didn't make much sense. I will say the artwork was nice, and Dawson's, I mean, the script seemed to be okay. I mean, Artemis is an interesting character from Wonder Woman, but without reading the first three parts, it's a little tough. But we'll go back now to Down the Road by Seeley and Jones, and the what the story is Nightwing is remembering his parents in the circus, and how they died. And so Deadman, Boston Brand, comes, and so what it is there's the ghost of circus past that are coming back to haunt them both. And that's really a setup. What's interesting is that it's, even though it's a Nightwing story, it's kind of a horror story, which Seeley, I mean, look, he's Kelly Jones is drawing it, so you write a horror story for him. But I liked how it was really, it's always interesting when Kelly Jones somewhat draws superhero stuff, because it's quite interesting because of his art style and everything. Obviously, he's definitely from that, Bernie Wrightson cloth of horror, but I really do like it when he kind of does superheroics, because it's like a superhero horror, but it's, it really is, Seeley definitely wrote this with him in mind doing the artwork, and that's why I really liked it. But I think it's quite interesting because having Nightwing, Dick Grayson, and Deadman together makes for an interesting pair, because they both have this connection to the circus. So that was really kind of interesting. The Time Jerks is really a lot of fun, because it's what it is Booster Gold has stolen a time bubble. He crashes into an asteroid along the way, and he ends up going into the past, where he runs into the Jurassic League from the DC miniseries of last year. And which is really funny, because who thought we'd ever see Jurassic League again? But yet Mark Russell said, hey, I like that idea, so I'm going to go there. And of course, he has written Booster Gold before, because there was a crossover with Booster Gold and the Flintstones that he wrote when they did those team-up books, the Hanna-Barbera team-up books. And so, of course, Booster, being the genius that he is, he screws up the time. He almost breaks the time capsule. The Jurassic team fixes it and gets him on his way. But as always, be careful what you do in the past, because it can affect the future. And of course, Booster screws up the future, and I'll just leave it at that. It's really a fun little story. Russell, he really knows how to do humor, and of course Booster is just like, shooting fish in a barrel when it comes to humor. Mikhail's artwork is actually really nice. It does a great job, and he also does a nice job on the Jurassic League, which is really nice to see. That was a really fun story. Then the Artemis story, once again, because it's the fourth part, I really kind of skipped over it, because I really didn't know what was going on. But I will say Acuna's artwork's nice, but we'll just kind of skip over that. It's not, it didn't seem bad, but like I said, reading the last part of a story kind of really doesn't have much of a point. Then we get to the Invader, which is where a UFO lands, and Bruce is looking for it. He finds it. There's a lot of radiation, so he calls Hal Jordan and says, hey, I'm checking this thing out, because Hal said, hey, I'll help you in the bath. Bruce is like, I got it covered. And so he goes, I think I'm going to need your help, because there's radiation stuff. So, of course, Hal doesn't show up, but who does? Guy Gardner. So, and then we find out that there's some sort of alien. So it's once again, it's the first part. I did like Falkov's story is really a good setup for this. Esterin's artwork is really nice. I really enjoyed the artwork on that, and it's off to a good start. So that was quite interesting. So all three of those stories are part ones of stories. I don't know how many parts they're going to be, but so at least this issue has three stories that are a good starting point. Then the final one, Perp Walk, which is a self-contained story, is a basically a Batman black and white story. And what it is Batman's fighting Joker, and then this guy comes out of nowhere and shoots Joker in the head and kills him. And he's basically saying, well, you needed to kill him because you're going to lock him up. He's going to escape. And it's just like this revolving door. And he says, I did you a favor. And so Batman's like, well, that's not how it works. You have to go to jail for killing him. So that was a really interesting story. Shaw Alexander did the plot, and he did the artwork, which is really, really neat looking. And I loved his use of black and white with the artwork. And then Barnes did the scripting on this from Alexander's plot. I like I said, I really did like this. It was a really interesting take because there's always been, hey, why do you keep locking up the villains when they're just going to escape? And this is kind of like the flip side of this is what would happen, and it's not really black and white like that, you know. So that was really interesting. So I would say this is, you know, for those three stories for the parts one and the backup, it's well worth picking up this issue. I think it's a good jumping on point for those stories. Of course, once again, for me, it was really the Kelly Jones artwork that, you know, sold it. But then you had Mark Russell doing a story, and I really love his stuff. And he's actually got another book this week that'll be just coming up soon. So definitely, I think it's worth picking up. Next up, we have Avengers Twilight #6, written by Chip Zdarsky, with artwork by Daniel Acuna. So this is the final part of the story. And what it is, you know, quick recap, it's set in the future. Red Skull is basically trying to take over the country. Steve Rogers has taken the super serum to become, you know, to get the Captain America powers back. And because the Avengers were framed for a disaster that they basically got blamed for this disaster, and they had to go into hiding. So now the Red Skull's trying to take over the country. The Avengers and Defenders are fighting back, and this is really the final part of the story. So we have the Hulk, the Red Skull's controlling the Hulk. So there's a huge fight between Thor and Hulk, and Captain America and the rest of the Avengers have to defeat the Red Skull. That's the basic premise. I don't really go into too much detail and give too much away, but I really enjoyed this series. I always say that what I like about these type of books is you don't have to worry about continuity or anything. You just go, do your story. And that's what Zdarsky has done here. He's crafted a really great story with a great beginning, middle, and end. It wraps up nicely. It's a good miniseries. And then you had Acuna's artwork, which is just really gorgeous. This has been a really solid book. I know it's going to be a little tough to find the previous 5 issues. I'm sure there's going to be a trade paperback of it coming, and when that comes out, if you've missed this book, I definitely recommend it. I really like this book. There is the advantage of, you know, being a mini series. It's just nice, self-contained. Plus, they don't have to worry about continuity, so they get to do whatever they want, and that has been the real best thing about this, is just telling a story the way they want to, and it's worked out really, really well. So definitely pick it up and pick up the trade when it comes out. Next up, we have William of Newbury #1, written and drawn by Michael Avon Oeming. The quick elevator pitch on this is Hellboy meets Redwell, the Redwell books. And so the basic premise here is the story of the 12th century England, the anarchy period, where basically the country is beset by plagues, civil war, and demons. And so William is a priest, and he basically hunts down ghosts and stuff, ghosts and demons and things like that. And of course, being a priest, the church is like, well, this is really not what you should be doing, blah, blah, blah. And William's like, hey, there's problems out there and I need to help people and stuff. So he goes off an adventure, and then he almost gets kidnapped by a band of thieves, and then one of them joins his thing. So it's also kind of a not so much Robin Hood, but kind of like, and also a little bit of Robin Hood thrown in, to where instead of stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, they're just out hunting ghosts and demons, and that's the basic story. Omin set up a really nice story here. There's a lot of groundwork here. Once again, it's pretty heavy exposition for this first issue. But I did like what he did, and I'm a big fan of his artwork. It's really, really good here. And he set up the story really nicely. I like how he's introduced William, and you get to know him, and you're just kind of going on this adventure. So I think it's well worth checking out. I enjoyed this first issue, and I think we'll kind of see where the second issue goes, but I think it's off to a good start. Next up we have Death Patio, or Rate. Okay, let's get this right. Death Ratioed, written by Mark Russell, with artwork by Lassie. Sorry about that. So this is self-contained. It's a one-shot, so it's one and done story. And the basic premise here is that Arnold has been in a coma for 20 years, and when he wakes up, society has changed to where social media rules society. So what it is everybody has these collars with likes and dislikes, and so if you get too many dislikes, it blows your head off. And so some people do dislike people just to see them get their head blown off. And so he has to navigate this future, and of course he understands social media, but he kind of doesn't get how it works now in this future state. And so he's basically trying to figure it out, and he runs across this group of people that have kind of rebels who have what they'll do is they'll steal people's collars and pretend to be other people with lots of likes. And I really don't want to give too much more away, but it's really an interesting, and what Russell's really good at is social commentary, and this is incredibly timely with this, how social media has really somewhat infected the world in both good and bad ways. And I think he doesn't say it's good or bad. He just says, here's how it can maybe go wrong. I think is a good way to look at it. But I really like the story, and once again, being a beginning, a middle, and end story, it's really nice. And then Lassie's artwork is really, really nice. It does a really good job, and there's a lot of times where people are standing around talking. So I always say that if you could draw that and make it interesting, then you've done your job. So Lassie has done a very good job there, and this is well worth picking up this week. I really, really enjoyed this. And once again, what's nice about it's a one-shot, so it's one and done. Next up, we have Batman Dark Age #3, written by Mark Russell, with artwork by Michael Allred. Do we see a pattern here of people we have Mark Russell doing 3 books this week. So this is Bruce has come back to Gotham after the Vietnam War. And this is basically, it's a Black Label book, but it's really an Elseworlds. It's retelling the Batman story in a completely different way. And so when he returns to Gotham, the last issue was the first one where he really becomes Batman, but there's so many he's been kicked out of Wayne Enterprises, but he still has a lot of money. So now he's discovered that even though Gotham needs Batman, Gotham also needs Bruce Wayne to help invest and try to fix the city from within. And so that's going on. So we kind of get to see, Bruce coming into that on his own. And in this issue, right at the so he also gets to that Superman shows up in the Justice League, and he goes back with them, and he's like, this is all great, but you guys are not really solving problems in the real world. You're off in space and doing this and that. And while he appreciates what they do, it's not what he needs to do. So that is also an interesting thing, because that's always been the dichotomy of really, why is Batman in the Justice League? And in a lot of ways, it doesn't make any sense. And Russell has really said, yeah, it doesn't really make much sense for him. And so that was an interesting twist. And of course, having Mike Allred draw out, the Flash and Superman and Wonder Woman is like, oh, that's just icing on the cake. And we also we don't quite, but we appear to be that we may be introduced to Robin in the next issue. So we'll kind of see where that goes. But then we not only have a great story here, but we have Mike Allred's just gorgeous artwork, and he is so perfect for this. I mean, it's the same team that did the Superman Space Age, which was amazing. If you haven't read that, definitely go pick that up. But they really have just taken that, and then this story could have just been like that, but no, it's such a unique retelling of like Batman's origin, but not so much trying to reinvent the wheel, but kind of telling it like, what if this happened? What if he was a rich, spoiled brat and didn't really learn anything from his parents' death? That's what makes this story really interesting, is like, what that story is. Now Russell's telling it in a different way, with different, but not trying to reinvent the wheel. That's the key here, is he's not trying to change it. He's just telling like a different angle. And then of course, once again, you have Allred's artwork. This is a winner. You need to be picking this up. This is a great book. Next up, we have Ultimate Spider-Man number 5, written by Jonathan Hickman with artwork by Dave Messina. So this issue is really kind of the origin of this Ultimate universe. It's really the secret history of Harry Osborn, and how we know he's the Green Goblin because him and Peter have met, but really, how did he get involved with this whole thing? What happened to his father? What does Kingpin William Fisk fit into this? And then also, how is Tony Stark? We know that Tony has tried to fix this universe where the heroes had not been created. And so how does that tie in with Osborn? And that's really what this issue. And yes, I'm kind of dancing around the story because I don't really give too much away. But I do like what Hickman is doing in this book. I like this. I will say, this is a bit of a middle issue, because the next issue is going to wrap up the first story arc. And Mark Cicchetto is coming back for the next issue. But this is really more of a middle issue, which is not a bad thing, because we've met Harry. We know that he's married to Gwen Stacy, and how, no, he's not married to Gwen. But how he became, it's one thing how he became the Green Goblin, but what is this Green Goblin in this universe? So that's really the thing. And yes, it is Gwen Stacy, because he's married to MJ. Peter's married to MJ. I'm getting them mixed up. Sorry, folks. But really, this is an interesting story, and I like that Zdarsky is building the characters within this story, because he could just, Spider-Man, they met and this and that. No, that's great and everything, but really he's getting into the characters of these universes, and we know these characters, but these are not those same characters. They're different versions of them. And once again, kind of like what Russell's doing with Batman Dark Age, Hickman's not trying to reinvent the wheel. He's just telling this story from a different perspective, and it's an interesting perspective so far. So we'll see how this first story arc wraps up next issue, and we'll kind of go from there and see how it lands. Next up, we have Man's Best number 3, written by Pornsak Pidishot, with artwork by Jesse Lonergan. So we have Lovey, the bulldog, which is they're kind of trapped in this. They're stuck in this psychic realm. We think that he might be dead. He's not. Just don't worry worry. The Peashot has not killed anybody. He's not killed any animals. And then we have Athos, the cat, who's kind of basically the leader, and Porthos is the other dog. And so they're kind of stuck in this like really psychedelic world, and they get attacked by these little round creatures while they're still trying to find the doctor, who is their master. And so they kind of go on this really psychedelic journey to try to find Lovey, because Porthos knows that he's not dead, because he can sense that he's not dead. And then there's a really neat twist, which I'm not going to give away at the end, that there is something going on with the doctor that maybe really does change things. But I did like this issue because it was weird, but like in a good way. And I think it's interesting because they crash landed on this planet, and it was very basic. It was kind of like that. But then the second issue, they fall into this other universe at the end of that issue, and now they're in a completely different like universe almost. And it's really wild. Like, are they on the same planet? We're not quite sure. But it's really, this issue was like really weird, but it kind of made a lot of sense in that it really took a nice turn, and it wasn't what you expected. And that's what I really like about this book, and what Pochette is doing with this. And then you have Lonergan's artwork, which is really, really nice. It almost is kind of has a storybook quality to it, which really adds to like the animals and stuff like that. I'm really digging this book. It'll be interesting to see, especially with the reveal at the end, which I'm not going to spoil, and to see where this story goes from here. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens in the next issue. And finally this week, we have Rook Exodus #2, written by Jeff Johns, with artwork by Jason Fabok. Both these last two books came out last week, but we're trying to catch up with them. We don't want to miss too many. So basically, the last issue, the Bear Warden killed Swine and took his helmet. So now he's after Rook, and Direwolf has come to find Rook to tell him, hey, there's this stuff going on. And Rook's like, hey, I've got all the pieces to my ship. We need to get the hell out of here. And Direwolf's like, oh no, they're gonna come and fix it. And he's like, they're not gonna come and fix it. We need to get the hell out of here. And then of course they get attacked by the Bear Warden. He destroys the spaceship, the completed spaceship, sadly. And so Rook and Direwolf take off, and they're gonna have to like figure out, because the planet's kind of dying, and Bear Warden now has Swine's helmet, and it's kind of a real mess, but a good mess. I like the concept of this book, and I think Johns is doing a really good job of like continuing to like evolve the story. I like that Rook is just kind of like, he's basically given up on the planet. He just wants to get the hell out of here, and now he's stuck. So that's going to be really interesting. And obviously there's some sort of like past things with him and Direwolf, sorry. And it'll be interesting to see now that they're together. And then of course we have the Bear Warden, and he's after them, and what his ultimate goal is, we're not quite sure yet. But I like where the book is going. Of course, you have Fabok's artwork, which is really gorgeous. And it's interesting. It's one of the Ghost Machine books. And I'm really liking it. Once again, Fabok's artwork is the book is gorgeous, but I do like the story that Johns has written here. So we'll kind of see where it goes. I'm liking the second issue. We'll see where the third issue kind of lands, and then kind of see if we keep going with this book. But so far, I'm liking it. And we'll just kind of see where it continues to land. So that's going to do it this week. Pretty light week. We'll see if we missed anything this week. It does seem like there have been like a few hiccups in some of the stuff where, like, I know last week, because I get advanced copies of Distillery books, I was able to review White Boat, but Ryan at the comic store didn't get all of his A covers, as an example. So there has been some hiccups and stuff in the distribution, but hopefully we'll kind of get everything back on track on both us and hopefully the comic stores. But as always, public service announcement: I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner, the owner, runs a great store. Annie, Wendy, and Derek runs their social media. If you're in the area, if you're in the Southern California area and you're able to get to Long Beach city, definitely stop by. It's a really good comic shop. They offer discounts on trades and graphic novels every day. They have a great manga selection. Annie handles their manga, and she's really beefed up that. They have a great all ages section. They have a section for local creators with comics and prints, and it's just a really good comic shop. And they also offer pull service, and if you order, I think it's like 10 books a month, you'll get a discount on your new books on top of that. So that's a really good deal. As always, support your local comic shop. They're the real backbone of the industry. And as always, we end our show with Be Kind. I know times are tough. It's things are crazy on many different levels. I know, inflation and people are out of work and stuff. But being kind, it doesn't cost anything, and also be kind to yourself. Take care of yourselves. That's really important to take care of yourselves. I know things can look bad and things are rough sometimes, but just being kind to others and being kind to yourself really is just so important, that we all take care of each other right now. With all this stuff going on, being kind to each other is just really, it's good for you and it's good for other people. So just take care of yourselves out there and be kind to yourself. That's going to do it this week. Thanks for watching. We've had a lot of new subscribers. Thank you for joining the YouTube channel. I appreciate it. Comments are always welcome. And hopefully, and one comment, my friend John has wondered, I used to put books up there. I will try to do it soon. It's just been really crazy at work and everything. So even this video is a little late this week. So, but we'll try to get on track. We'll try to get that. And don't forget, if you're able to vote for the Eisners, if you work in the industry, voting ends next week. I believe the 6th is the last day to vote for it. So I believe that's like next Thursday or Friday. So make sure you vote for the Eisner nominees. There's some really great nominations. Hopefully, maybe I'll put some of those up in the next few weeks so you can see what could win an Eisner this year. So that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. This is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com signing off. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.